Welcome, everybody. I'm Pugs Moran. This is the second of two streams that I do each and every day here on the Radio Misfits podcast platform and show streaming production company thing, whatever. I don't know what we'll call it. The first one, we call it High Noon. That comes on at noon Central Time every day. That's topics. That's current events. That's trends. That's anything that's a headline, pop culture. If it's happening in the world, I try and give it to you in a nice little nutshell, little bite-sized pieces. I see something, it's trending. I tell you what's trending. I tell you why it's trending. I give you a quick little hot take, and then we move on to the next thing. Then the second show that we do each and every day is this one here. We call this Pugs and Parker's. Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk on the Radio Misfits podcast platform. This show airs every Monday through Thursday, not to be confused with the High Noon Show, which airs every Monday through Friday. So, see, a little different. Okay, what else do I need to tell you here? That's it. The show runs via your tips. So go ahead. You want a tip? Help us out. Treat me like your bartender. Treat me like your barista. There are a couple of ways there at the bottom of the screen. Without further ado, let's bring in the other half of Pugs and Parker proudly present. He's James Parker. Hi, James.
Hey, glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here too. What a day! Well, what a day! I don't even want to go into it. Don't even want to go into it. But it's been a doozy, as they say, a doozy. Should we bring in our friend, our third, our what do we call that? Hey Jeff. Hey John. Hey Michael. Hey Kenny. Hey Ed. They're all here. You seriously broke one of those thick-ass straps on the shop mount. I did, Ed. I broke it. Broke it like 2 weeks ago. And I've been waiting for you to notice. And you just noticed now. You're slipping, Ed.
Is this the new flatter ones or is this the round ones?
No,
it's the flat ones. Wow, you broke a flat one.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know.
I've got the flat ones too. I haven't broke one of these and I've had it for like 4 years.
Well, you're just not as passionate as I am. I guess that's
Must not be.
It's the only answer we could come with that. But don't worry, Ed. I know you got more in the house in the West Wing there. Ed's little private office area. I will make you happy because I know this drives him insane. So I will go and I will get another one. It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't. It's fine. All right, should we bring in our friend?
Yes.
Got a friend. Who's our friend? Tell everybody who else we have with us on the show today.
Rebecca Pratt.
Oh, look at Rebecca.
Welcome back.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's happening?
I got a microphone right here, but it's not working right now, Parker. And I don't know. This could be trouble for
Pugs could probably walk you through it at this point. That little the little gear below our preview screen here. If you hover over it, it says settings, or you can push S on your keyboard and it should pop it up. So then you go under settings to audio, and under audio input, you find in the drop down menu your microphone selection.
That didn't work.
We can't hear you now. Yeah. Well, you're gonna have to switch to the microphone that works again, Rebecca. See, this is kind of funny, but also just painful for me because I've worked with Rebecca for like a decade, and after all this time, how just technologically illiterate someone can be after 3 decades in broadcasting. You get your ass kicked by a microphone.
How worse is Rebecca worse than I am?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Oh really?
Oh my God, yes.
It's not working.
Now he just came back on when you said it's not working.
There it is. Oh, she's back. That is very interesting, James. And I imagine that Rebecca and I have a similar story as to why we are so technologically behind the times as far as just the modern radio equipment goes. I will tell you why I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to do anything because I learned how to do everything with reel-to-reels, Ampaxes, and I do a little cut tape. I do that stuff. You wear it around, you get the little grease pen, and you do that. I could do that shit, put it up, load it on a cart, stick the cart in the machine, fire.
Rebecca, did you ever cut tape?
Yeah, back in the day.
You had to. And then suddenly, after just as I mastered, boy, James, First of all, James, here's a little something you don't know about your radio mom and dad.
Cutting machine, huh?
Both your mom and dad were cutting machines. We were both tech producers for some of the biggest shows in the Midwest, and we were smoking. Oh, you can say what you will about the guys at the Ticket. I know they do a good job, but they got it easy with their digital editing equipment. No, not us. We used to run around the hallways with bounds of tape around our neck and a grease pen. Who's got my grease pen? We'd yell. And then I'm telling you, it was the old-timey times, but it was good, and we were great at it. We were very good at it. And then you know what happened? Just as we were getting elevated into our own shows from the producer thing, just as we were moving up to the next level, everything changed. Everything went digital, and everything that we knew was no longer applicable. And at that point, we had producers. So there was no reason for us to learn how to digitally edit and all that kind of stuff, because we would just go, hey, get the intern to do it. And the intern knew how to do it. So that's why. That's my excuse. Now, I know that I should have probably over the course of the past 20 years picked up a little something, but what do you want from me, James? Rebecca, similar story?
Yeah, I'm no technological person. I'm around your age, Pugs, and we kind of just missed the computer stuff at school.
Yeah.
The computer came in right after us.
I'll give you an example. When I was a junior in high school, I had to take a business class, and I had to choose between typewriting, learning how to write on a typewriter, or introduction to computers. And I took typewriting because that's where the jobs were, baby. That was a skill you needed in 1988. Computers didn't seem like it would be worth my time. I didn't want to be a computer scientist. So I did. But really more to the point with radio, when radio changed over from analog to digital, I didn't need to learn the digital, because at that point, I had my own assistants, since I had my own producers who were doing all that stuff for me, and they were good. And I didn't want to. People like James, people so good back in the day, people like Eric, people like Bobby, you guys, Sybil, you guys were all so talented. There was never any need for me to learn how to do that stuff. And here I sit today.
Yeah, same. And James did the same for me that he did for you. So kind of leaned on him for a lot of the technological stuff.
See, I don't buy this for a second. Y'all are bathing your sloth in compliments, and that's not going to work.
Not compliments. I'm telling you the way it played out. I'm telling you exactly the way I play. Oh, what, James? Was I not supposed to go out on a Tuesday night running around with my friends picking up girls? I should have been home learning how to edit back in 2005. I don't think so. I didn't work hard to get to a position where I own my own show, or ran my own show in a major market, so that I can stay in on a Tuesday night learning how to edit. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, I noticed both of you have a little more free time in the last few months or so, that maybe y'all could have picked something up, watch a YouTube video or something.
My excuse for the modern, my modern retardation when it comes to this type of technology is simply that it's intimidating, James. It's intimidating. I'm an old man. I don't like to learn new things. The world is changing every second in front of my very eyes. I'm finding myself having to adapt to a whole new world, and I just don't have room for that.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I understand why old people were not the happiest people on earth.
Right?
When I was a kid, I would notice that about older people.
They're always frustrated.
Do you know how long it took me to warm up to my smart TV? Do you know how long it took me to finally start going, all right, I'll watch apps, whatever. I mean, honestly, I'd rather pay $200 a month for cable, but all right, I'll learn how to do it with apps.
All right, a little secret of the pros, people who are older than y'all. So the generation that is above y'all, they are just totally on just letting ice flow out in the middle of the ocean, just away from society. Because I swear to God, I'm going to start flipping things over if I see anyone else writing a check in the grocery store in 2022. It's like, listen, man, I'm not saying you got to keep up with like quantum physics or something, but you can at least embrace the technology of the late 1990s and get a debit card, for the love of God. Why do y'all still accept checks?
My son saw a lady writing a check at the Kroger a couple of weeks ago, and I had to explain to him what it was. And he was just looking at me like, So you could just write on a piece of paper that you have this money and they believe you? I'm like, yeah, that's
right. Why don't you just write it for like $1 million? It's like, well, because you'll get in trouble when they go cash it.
That's what he was wondering. He was like, what do you mean? You mean this is just like the honor system? That's what he said, the honor system. I go, well, that's backed by the bank. It's a little more complicated than that. He's like, wow, that's crazy. I go, yeah.
It is wild. I can't believe they did it either. Like, I can't believe you used to make stock purchases on pink slips.
Yes. Or that people used to just cash their paycheck at the liquor store. You know, like in the 1950s, they just
did that. Yeah.
You've done that yourself.
Well, in my 20s, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Very good. James, you want to do a monologue?
I would love to do a monologue. Can I have the floor, please?
Oh, my God. Really?
Just make some room. Just
floor. Holy cow. He is so high maintenance. All right. Here he goes. Look at him up there. There he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the Comfort Nest Lounge. Direct from a sold-out tour of America's naval bases, he's a global sensation. He has thrilled and wowed the world around. He's James Parker.
Oh, beautiful crowd. You're a beautiful crowd. Thank you so much. According to the Globe magazine, Kelly Clarkson has started a cat fight with Ariana Grande.
Would you all? Oh, my God. Oh, and you start out with a comp. Okay, go.
According to the Globe magazine, Kelly Clarkson has started an online cat fight with Ariana Grande. That's not fair, though. Kelly needs to pick on someone her own size. Like,
I'm sorry. I stepped on it. I thought this was one with a 1 second drag. Go ahead, finish the punch.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, but Kelly Clarkson needs to pick on someone her own size, like DeMarcus Lawrence. But it's already ruined, so whatever. Just.
All right, it's not that one with the drag. I'm sorry. There are a couple of these that have a second drag. I apologize. I got seen it confused with something else. Continue, James.
According to a new study, global warming is now causing octopuses, or is it octopi? Octopuses to go blind. In fact, it's sad. I saw it on Discovery Channel. A lot of octopuses nowadays have to use a seeing eye dogfish.
That's the one with the drag.
I know. Can't make fun of handicap animals. I got it. This is Bed Bug Awareness Week. According to Orkin, Chicago is the most bed bug infested city. Chi-Town is also plagued by mice, rats, and Cubs fans.
I like that one. I'll give him that one.
Yeah, that was for you, bud. Happy birthday to Tom Jones. I don't want to say he's getting old, but he has a new song called "It's Not Unusual to Have a Walk-In Bathtub."
What's new, pussycat? Whoa!
Those are cool though. Walk-in bathtubs.
Oh, yeah. I want one. Yeah, I want one.
I also want one of those things that you sit in a chair and it takes you upstairs.
Oh, I know, the stair lift. How fun would that be when you're drunk? And finally, happy birthday to the drummer of Lynyrd Skynyrd, Michael Cartellone. I don't want to say he's getting old, but he and the band have a new song called "Rest Home, Alabama."
Oh. Boom. All right, there you go. That was a quick one, James. You're not really.
I hear that a lot.
Today. Yeah, okay.
And that drummer from Lynyrd Skynyrd, obviously not their original drummer, Michael.
Why do you say that? Why would you say that?
They only have one original member left. That's why. But he was in Damn Yankees. Michael Carleone. He was in that band.
The supergroup.
Yeah, with Ted Nugent and
Tommy Shaw.
Yeah.
Was Billy Sheehan in that one too? Or is that Mr. Big? I get Damn Yankees and Mr. Big, the two supergroups from that era, confused.
Well, anyways, the Damn Yankees drummer is now the Lynyrd Skynyrd. Damn Lynyrd Skynyrd drummer.
All right, so do I get to say I've seen Lynyrd Skynyrd when I saw him in 2019 at the iHeart Festival or whatever in Vegas?
You saw one original member.
Okay. Well, it was like the little brother that's the lead singer.
Yeah.
And, they've played these songs a few times.
So Stu Van Zandt.
No, what's his name? It's like Joe or something, isn't it?
It's not Ronnie. It's like
no, it's
Tommy
definitely not Ronnie.
or Kenny. I don't know. Something like one of those Jacksonville, Florida trailer home names. Kenny, Ronnie.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Bobby, something like that.
But there was something cool about it, though, because I don't know where the cultural verbal tick started, but how many rock concerts have you been to where in a quiet moment someone in the crowd yells, "Play Freebird," and it was like, ha ha. Well, you can actually say that and not be an a-hole at the Skinner concert. Plus, you can actually say it, and the next song might be Freebird. And I dare say in that big dumb arena where the Golden Knights or whatever play now, someone right before they did the opening lick to Freebird, someone in the rare moment of concert going history said, "Play Freebird," and then Freebird started.
Well,
yeah, and they have to play it. I mean, Skinner in the year 2022. Can you imagine if they don't play Freebird with everybody screaming in the crowd all night? Play Freebird. Can you imagine if they said, we don't feel like playing this one tonight?
Because people have been screaming Freebird since, I don't know, at least the mid-90s when I started going to concerts.
They've been screaming Freebird since, I want to say, 1989, possibly 1988. Now, you may be wondering, Pugs, how do you know when the origin of people screaming Freebird at concerts came from? Ed Sillis, he in the chat room, he knows where the origin is. Do you know where that came from?
Do not, but I'm not surprised you know this story. This is what you're good for,
can we acknowledge that it is?
Actually, I'm surprised Rebecca doesn't know this story. This is kind of the rock trivia minutia.
No, but this is more radio minutia. This has to do with radio. Can we acknowledge, first of all, that shouting Freebird in inappropriate moments at concerts is a national, if not maybe even global sensation that we've all experienced? You go see Train and somebody will be like, "Play Freebird, man!" Like somebody's gonna yell that out. That's a thing, right? Yelling Freebird at concerts, as you just sort of mentioned.
And it doesn't just have to be at concerts. The other day I was in Walgreens and something freaked me out and I screamed Freebird.
Yeah, right. All right. So here's where that started. Ground zero for that is Kevin Matthews in Chicago. The radio.
Oh, no way.
100% swear on my son's future. Yeah, he started it. That's his thing. It was a punchline to a joke that he used to do in his stand-up comedy thing, where it became a thing with the Kevin Matthews show in the late 80s, where people would send people to concerts and like, "Did you yell Freebird?" was always the question. And then it became a loop thing in Chicago. At every loop event, people would be yelling Freebird, Freebird. It is 100% from the bizarro, twisted mind of Kevin Matthews. He invented it. He did it He did it because he used to play like this sort of stoner character where like when people would call in and they'd be like, maybe a concert would get brought up and he'd be like, "Did you shout Freebird, man?" It's like, so that became a thing, going to concerts around the Chicago area, seeing bands like Tom Jones and yelling Freebird, man. And it was famously it really took up steam with a guy named Bill Hicks, who was a very good stand-up comedian who's dead now. He was really close friends with Kevin. They used to tour together as comics, and people, well, there's Ed. Of course I know. Yeah. Because Ed knows the origin too. So Bill Hicks was playing in Chicago and somebody yelled Freebird. They yelled it out to Bill Hicks on stage, and Bill Hicks famously went nuts on the guy. Like went up here, you know what? Let me play this for you. You can see this. And that's where this is from, I believe, the Funny Firm in 1989. And they even name check Kevin Matthews, where there's like, "Yeah, I know, it's his thing."
Why would he be upset about that?
Because Bill Hicks was a very temperamental guy. And when he was rolling on stage, he didn't particularly enjoy being interrupted. Bill Hicks had very little respect for his audience or really anyone. I was lucky enough to have met Bill Hicks a number of times because he was a regular on our show and he and Kevin were very close friends. He wasn't like a nice guy. He was a very elitist, a very superior guy. He was probably one of the smartest comics that I've ever, known, but this is kind of quintessential Bill Hicks. All right, so here it is. This is from the Funny Firm in Chicago. This is classic Bill Hicks moment.
Please quit yelling that. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's stupid. It's repetitive. Why the fuck would you continue to yell that? I'm serious. Kevin Matthews. Okay, what does that mean now? Now what does it mean?
All right, see there? See the guy's like, why are you yelling? And the dude's like, because Kevin Matthews, because we do it. Now, this is where Bill loses his shit.
I understand where it comes from. So do you. It's not funny. It's not clever. It's stupid. It's repetitive. Why the fuck would you continue to yell that? I'm serious. Kevin Matthews. Okay, what does that mean now? Now what does it mean? I understand where it comes from. So do you. Now what does it all mean? What is the culmination of yelling that? Jimmy Shorts. He's not here. He's not going to be here. Now what? Now where are we? We're here at you interrupting me again, you fucking idiot. That's you.
Jimmy Shorts was Kevin Matthews' sidekick.
Now what does it mean? I understand where it comes from. So do you. Now what does it all mean? What is the culmination of yelling that? Jimmy Shorts. He's not here. He's not going to be here. Now what? Now where are we? We're here at you interrupting me again, you fucking idiot. That's you. See where we're at? We're here at the same point again where you, the fucking peon masses, can once again ruin anyone who tries to do anything because you don't know how to do it on your own. That's where we're fucking at. Once again, the useless waste of fucking flesh that has ruined everything good in this goddamn world. That's where we're at. Hitler had the right idea. He was just an underachiever. Kill them all, Adolf, all of them. Jew, Mexican, American, white, kill them all! Start over! The experiment didn't work! Rain, 40 days, please, fucking rain, and wash these turds off my fucking life! Wash these human waste of flesh and bones off this planet! I pray to you, God, to kill these fucking people! Freebird.
All right, there you have it. That's the famous Bill Hicks melting down because in 1989 somebody yelled "Freebird."
There was an underachiever.
Yes,
Okay.
you should have killed them all.
I bet you Tom Jones used to get pissed like that too, because people yelled it during his concert. He's like, you know how much longer I've been around than these guys, and you're asking for this new song?
Yeah, it's just crazy how that one little radio bit from a show in Chicago has taken off to now it's being checked by James Parker in 2022 just in a reference to Lynyrd Skynyrd. I mean, it's really yeah. So there you go. That's where it came from. Bill says he went all Alex Jones. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Bill Hicks wasn't too far away from being what Alex Jones is today back in 1990. Anyway, God rest his soul. Probably a terrible man, but in my opinion, one of the three greatest stand-up comedians of all time. All right.
So he's number 3.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
That's why you say the top 3. You would say he's the best of all time, or he's my second favorite. But no, he's top 3.
No, do you know what it is? It's because there is such a logjam at 1 or 2 between most people. Most people
like Bill Cosby, or
no, it's Pryor or Carlin. You know, everybody's like, shut up. It's like Pryor or Carlin, 1, 2. But I don't know. If you ask me today, I might say Carlin was number 1 because I just recently saw the Carlin documentary on HBO Max. Give me a week from now, I might tell you Bill Hicks is number 1. You know, according to my 13-year-old son, Bill Hicks is I told him, you know, Bill Hicks is the greatest of all time, mostly because I know that he's going to be exposed to Carlin and Pryor, and he might have to do a little more work to be exposed to Bill Hicks. But yeah, and just because I know what you're saying, just because I say he's like in my top 3 for this particular situation, it doesn't necessarily mean he's number 3. I don't know. I think it might be a push.
No, I remember Mitch Hedberg was on the show in like 2003, and you're like, you're in my top 5 comedians, and his girlfriend goes, hey, you're number 5. That's pretty good. He goes, yeah, I'm happy with number 5.
That's funny. He might be number 5. Bill Hicks or Mitch Hedberg might be number 5 in my all time. Although I'll tell you, there's a brand new Bill Burr special on Netflix, and I watched about 20 minutes of it. Bill Burr is climbing the charts. I
think Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle, and Louis C.K. have all passed everyone in the previous generations. They passed Bill Hicks. They passed Richard Pryor. They passed George Carlin.
No.
All 3 of those guys. And Chris Rock is an almost. Chris Rock is kind of in that top tier too.
Everybody that you've mentioned is in the top 10. How we break them down, you know, that's a matter for debate, and I could respect any order that you want to put those guys in. Rebecca, any thoughts on this?
Well, that's very subjective, and all the names you said, they're great. You could, but it's just like saying, who's the best rock band? I mean, if you say who's the best stand-up comedian, why don't you just say who's the best rock band, or who's? I mean, again, there's a lot of names you could throw in that conversation, and we could have some good debates. But I think in the end, it comes down to it's very subjective. It comes down to what you like. I mean, I'm a huge Jerry Seinfeld fan, and I know there are people that can't stand him.
Yeah, I love Jerry Seinfeld. I think that he's definitely you could make an argument for him being a top 10 stand-up comedian of all time. It's funny though when you talk about these lists where we say top 10s, there are a number of these particular categories that seem to have log jams at the top 3. And most notably stand-up comedians. We're talking about that right now. For me, most people say, in no particular order, Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor, or Bill Cosby, James, you got me saying
Gotcha, so good, yeah.
George Carlin, Bill Hicks, or Richard Pryor in one of those orders. The same can be said for rock bands. With rock bands, it's always some particular order of Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, and also NFL running backs. It's always Jim Brown, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders. And you just mix those up into any order, however you want it.
What about Emmitt Smith?
Yeah, he's
not in that top 3.
What about Emmitt Smith? He ran behind 5 Hall of Famers.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's good.
I don't think anybody's ever going to rush for more yards than Emmitt Smith. I don't think anybody's ever going to catch that record.
Yeah, because it's tough with the running back by committee these days. It's rare to even have a guy who takes the load. It's a vertical
league. It's all about passing now, but
look,
you don't run the ball as much, not nearly as much.
Right. The only thing that softens me up on that statistic is now guys are going to be coming in playing 17 game seasons, and that might push someone over. 10 years from now.
I don't know. The records that will fall in the future won't be running back numbers. You're absolutely right. It'll be quarterback passing yardage, and it'll be receiving numbers. Those numbers are fluid in this era of football because they're just going to pass more and more and more until somebody figures it out and the defense takes over for a couple of years and then the offenses will reset. Who do you think? We were just talking about the top 10s there. Rebecca, so you were talking about rock bands. Who would be some of the bands in your top 10 rock bands of all time? And I ask because I just did a list on the High Noon show that I do every day that counted down the top 25 rock bands of all time. And I'm wondering because I want to hear James too give me a couple on his list because I
thought I was on that show.
No.
I was just watching it.
Yeah, maybe. This was just a couple of days ago.
I watch sometimes.
Well, the Beatles and the Stones, of course, and Zeppelin.
Is there a 1-2 though? Do you put Beatles, Stones in any particular order?
Usually, you say Beatles and the Stones. I think you say it like that because that's 1 and 2.
I think so too, and I think the argument for it is influence versus longevity. Like that's where I always get mixed up. Do the Stones deserve to be number 1 for longevity, or do the Beatles deserve to be number 1 because of their influence? That's the. But either way, it's 1-2. I also go Beatles 1, Rolling Stones 2. Who else is on your top 10?
I think you'd have to throw Black Sabbath in there, especially Black Sabbath.
Okay, not on my list.
With Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, that's literally the first heavy metal,
Cream.
I would put Guns N' Roses in there.
Top 10. That's interesting. I might as well.
Well, I think both of y'all would put the Clash in there too.
I would put the Clash in there.
Clash is in my top 5. Yeah.
Y'all have a lot of musical overlap.
How about the Police?
Without a doubt, are in my top 10.
Top 10? Wow. Yep. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have them in my top 10.
Where's Leonard Skinner?
Somewhere back in the 30s.
Okay. There's a lot of people who think the Eagles should be in the top 10.
They're in my top 10. Absolutely. I'm one of them. And by the way, I don't mean to demean Leonard Skinner. A couple of months ago, I watched this Leonard Skinner documentary, and my mind was reopened to them. I used to always categorize them as just kind of a dirtbag band, and I watched this 3-hour documentary, and I'm like, they've got a lot of really good songs, and they were a very good band. So
they have range, yeah.
They have a lot of range. They were a very smart and they were not what people wanted to categorize them as. It's just a bunch of stupid hippies, a bunch of Southern white trash, dumb hippie, stoners. They were not that. They were really an incredible band. So they probably would make my top 15 after seeing that documentary.
When you thought Leonard Skinner was a dirtbag band, were you talking about them, the band, being dirtbags, or just the people who like them being dirtbags?
And isn't that an interesting way to say it? Because that does affect the fandom. Whoever the nation, the army that surrounds a band certainly does influence people's opinions of the band. I had that bad vibe on Pink Floyd for a very long time. I hated Pink Floyd because I hated Pink Floyd fans. I hated the Grateful Dead because I hated the Grateful Dead fans. So I do unfortunately allow that to sort of affect, my rankings. But that's a great observation.
All right, I'll throw out some other nominees that are probably floating around in people's heads right now: AC/DC, Aerosmith, Foo Fighters, Chili Peppers. Like there's
Van Halen.
No, get out of here with Van Halen.
Van Halen absolutely makes my top 15, possibly even top 10. I don't know. I'd have to really look at this.
Wow.
Yeah. Dude, you have no idea. You're just a baby. You have no idea how influential Van Halen was. For about 5 years in the 80s, they were big.
If you're talking about influential, Nirvana has to be in the discussion because I mean they changed everything with one guitar riff. It changed everything.
Yeah, the interesting thing, and I might have this wrong, but it's in the same genre. The week before Nirvana Nevermind went to number 1, the number 1 song in the nation, and again, I might be wrong about, but it's from this kind of genre. I believe it was Ace of Base, I Saw the Sign. So music in America went from I Saw the Sign to Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it changed. There is no alternative rock format without those guitar licks from.
Well, it ended that gray genre called hair metal. That was no more. This crap where these guys are wearing spandex and some ripped up tank top, and they got their hair all teased up, all huge. And that was Rebecca's era, man. Like that was probably a tough transition for you to be a part of, because sort of the crossover band was Guns N' Roses.
They were able, the bridge band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so coming from the other direction, coming from what was sort of alternative rock becoming more mainstream, I think the bridge band would have to be like the Pixies, where you're going from sort of that Talking Heads Devo wacky rock to I Hate My Dad, and I'm pretty damn serious about it.
Yeah, really? So you think it's Pixies? I say to a greater extent it's REM. I think REM is the one that went from the art rock to reintroducing the guitars, but they weren't necessarily grunge and they weren't necessarily pop radio music, but REM was big. I mean,
way bigger than the Pixies.
Yes, yeah. REM was big. Every college kid in America between 1986 and 1995 knew who REM was, and nobody else did until.
Well, look, I hear a lot of people see this. You see Jeff over there saying I was happy when 80s hair metal went down. I was ecstatic. I tolerated hair metal, but I was so sick of it and I was so over it. And I don't like these guys in spandex and loose little tank tops with the hair all teased up, wearing eyeshadow and lipstick, jumping around, acting like, fairies from where I'm from, because I could either listen to that or NWA. I'm sorry. That's what drove me into the loving embrace of rap at such a young age, is how foo-foo hair metal was.
Well, here's what I would say about that. And Rebecca, I'll let you chime in a second here. I was neither. I did not like hair metal either. I had a whole bunch of friends who were into the Poisons and the Motley Crue and all that kind of stuff. And I wasn't. I was at that point, I was more into like the Clash. I loved Duran Duran. I loved The Cure. I like the Smiths. And I'd like to be able to say, James, that I'm on your team with the whole teased up hair and all that. But have you ever seen The Cure? I mean, The Cure was just as, makeup and all of that as Poison or Warren or anybody. It was just kind of a different vibe of music. It really took a metal band, which is what Nirvana basically was, playing Cure type music to sort of bring me back into what would be like the 90s grunge stuff. Because that's really what Nirvana was. Nirvana was a mashup of the Sunset Strip banging loud guitar thrash bands and the Cure and the Smiths. They were all of that in one band. Rebecca, how about you? Were you a hair metal devotee?
I liked a couple of the hair metal bands. I mean, it was a wild time to live through.
Yeah.
and I actually went out and I spent a little time out there in Hollywood in the late 80s. That was insane. But it was played out. I mean, Guns N' Roses are one of my favorite bands, and I love Motley Crue. I thought they were good.
I've grown to appreciate Motley Crue. I did not like them in their moment.
I really liked a couple of those bands a lot, but it played itself out. But when Nirvana's "Smells Like Teen Spirit" came on the radio and on MTV, it wiped out that entire genre of music. And all the bands that came after Nirvana, they were around for a while. Soundgarden and Alice in Chains were around for a long time, but they didn't make it until Nirvana kicked the door down.
Yeah. I can say regarding Nirvana, I still vividly remember I was in college at the time when that came out. And, college kids think they're on the cutting edge of all cool music, right? I mean, I remember standing at a frat party and just hanging out, just watching. And when the DJ, and this song was probably out for only a couple of days, the DJ at this college frat party played "Smells Like Teen Spirit," and just 200 college kids who had probably only heard this song once before on the radio, right? Because it had just come out, went absolutely insane for it. And I remember that moment. I remember thinking, whoa, okay, this is not Ace of Base. This is not New Kids on the Block. This is something that sounds completely different, and it has this group of people. It has this group of people by the balls. And then for weeks, man, because this is back in the time where we didn't have music on demand, for weeks you'd be driving around with your friends, and when that song came on the radio, everything stopped in the car, and you just cranked it, and it was really a thing. And I don't know that people who weren't like, Rebecca and me, who weren't really there for that moment, that sea change in American popular music, I don't think I really appreciate it. And I think that's why now here we are 30 years later or so, where there's a lot of younger people who just sort of dismiss Nirvana because they only put out 3 albums. But it was like, man, that's like dismissing Jimi Hendrix because he only put out 3 albums.
What's on your shirt there, Pugs?
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, good eye. You know what my other problem, though, with the music of this era was? And maybe Rebecca can relate to this as well. So I was a young man, and I was dating, and I was looking for the ladies, and I was into all that kind of stuff back at this time. And I was I loved the Cure, and I loved all of that stuff, but I was not attracted to the female Cure fans. I was not attracted to the women who were in that kind of music. I was attracted to the women who were into the music that I didn't like. I liked the girls who liked Motley Crue. The girls who liked Warren. They were the slutty ones. They were the ones that were like just going out banging, just looking amazingly sexy. And then, the girls that I would go to concert with, seeing the Cure, they're all buttoned up like Morticia Adams and shit. I'm like, there's nothing sexy about this. Where are we going after the concert? Where are we going after the Cure concert? I don't know. Hey, let's go see a metal band so I could look at some women. That was like the whole, was the whole thing. The metal bands had the women. The other one.
Yeah. And for the women, dressing for the shows was almost as much fun as the going to see the band. And that was wild. And even though the Seattle sound, knocking the hair metal bands out, it was good timing for the music because, like I said, I thought the metal bands kind of played themselves out. The one thing that stunk about it though was when you went to the shows, the female fans weren't dressed the same way going to Pearl Jam shows that they were going to Guns N' Roses or Motley Crue shows.
No, not the hardcore ones, but I was okay with it because it was a nice mix. It was a nice sort of compromise between the Morticia Addams look from the Cure shows and the Pam Anderson look of the Motley Crue shows. You know, there's the Pearl Jam girls, they were a little bit different. James, give me a couple. We talked about all our old timey stuff, so give me a couple that would be on your top 10 that maybe.
Well, I have a sneaking suspicion in 10 or 20 years we're going to look back and we're going to be saying similar things about both the Foo Fighters and the Red Hot Chili Peppers. How many albums across how many decades, and you know they haven't been like the biggest thing in the world, but they sure as hell have been relevant for like 30, 40 years.
No, the Foo Fighters have been the biggest rock band in the world. They were before Taylor Hawkins died.
The Foo Fighters have been successful and they've been consistent and they've been just prolific with their output of really good content. But the Foo Fighters didn't change anything. You know, the Foo Fighters didn't.
That's the biggest knock against them. And you can say something similar about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, although they are one of the few bands that were able to ride the wave through the decade of the 80s into the 90s without getting punted out. Because all the Great Whites and Poison and Warrant and Winger, and none of them had an album that did diddly squat poo in the 90s after the Pearl Jam change. But Red Hot Chili Peppers had even
that's
bigger
when they sold
success.
the most records. You know, Red Hot Chili Peppers, those first few albums, they were doing something different. They were bringing funk and rock and you know, a little bit of rapping, and you know, after they put out Mother's Milk is where they started to take off, and then Blood Sugar Sex Magic is what blew the roof off the building for them. But everything that they put out after Blood Sugar Sex Magic sells a lot, but they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything different.
No, and James, you mentioned that you know, the Great Whites and the you know, White Lions or whatever, you know, all these bands,
White Snake,
whatever, all of these bands that were really big in the 80s when the Red Hot Chili Peppers were around. You have to understand, they were big in the 80s, but the Red Hot Chili Peppers were not. The Red Hot Chili Peppers, critics liked them because of what Rebecca just pointed out. They were doing this really interesting stuff, but you did not hear the Red Hot Chili Peppers on commercial radio in 1987.
Because they didn't tease their hair. They didn't put on lipstick. They didn't have any eyeshadow on.
So their success came after the Seattle grunge bands really started to make it big and have influence. And then the Seattle grunge bands reached back into the 80s and pulled the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Jane's Addiction was also another big helper in the reemergence of Jane's Addiction.
Look, I want you to think of the timeline, because in my recollection, I might be wrong. Under the Bridge took them to superstardom, and that was 2 years before Smells Like Teen Spirit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, you're mistaken. Under the Bridge was not 2 years before Smells Like Teen Spirit. Under the Bridge,
Sugar Sex Magic.
Yeah, that came after that. Well, you know what? We can check that out. That's why we have Google, right?
Yeah, because part of the argument for these guys to be included in the conversation is the fact that they were able to have significant success before and after the Nirvana era, and Under the Bridge dispels the notion that they were nothing before Nirvana came along, and then they were allowed to explode after that. I think they had pretty resounding success with Under the Bridge before Smells Like Teen Spirit came out.
Okay, same time, 1991.
Yeah, they came out the same year.
Yeah, they came out the same year. So, but maybe they got their boost because Smells Like Teen Spirit became so big, and the record company started to reassess who they were going to give some sort of, you know, attention to. But that was sort of concurrent. And whereas the Nirvana had only been around, I mean, I think they put out Bleach in 1990.
No one heard Bleach.
No one heard Bleach until after the fact. But the Red Hot Chili Peppers, people knew. They just didn't have a hit, but they were around because they were critically acclaimed.
My first Red Hot Chili Peppers recognition, like in my childhood, was in the movie Tough Guys. Remember the movie Tough Guys with like Jack Lemmon and like
No.
Kurt
I never
Russell.
saw that.
No, never.
It was these two old bank robbers that finally got let out of jail when they were like 80, and so then these 80-year-old dudes who had been in jail for the last 50 years were
that was
dropped off in New York.
Douglas and yeah, it wasn't Jack Lemmon. Tough Guys was Kirk Douglas and yeah, but yeah, I know what you're
Jack Lemmon. It was
Jack Lemmon. He was never a tough guy.
No,
it was Kirk Douglas and maybe Robert Mitchum, somebody like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was someone like that. It was a hilarious movie because Kirk Douglas is like being hit on by some chick, and she's like, "I'm just happy that there's some straight guys at the gym. Everyone else is gay. Are you gay?" He goes, "Gay? I just got out of prison. I'm miserable." Like he didn't even know what it was.
It's Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, it was so close. So the Red Hot Chili Peppers are in that movie. They are like, they go to the Kirk Douglas with his new chick, like goes to the club, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers are playing on the stage. And I'm like, that's a damn good song. Who are these guys?
Tough Guys. Tough Guys is a 1986 American action comedy film directed by Jeff Canoe and starring Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, Eli Wallach, Charles Durning, Dana Carvey, and Darlene Flugel. It was the 8th film of Touchstone Pictures and the final film to be released from Kirk Douglas's productions. Okay, there you go. I never saw that movie.
Dude, it's a great movie because it sort of has a Rip Van Winkle aspect. And these guys who haven't seen American society since like the 1940s, like, come here, you big dame, I'd like to plant one on you. And they are dropped off in the middle of cocaine-fueled 80s New York City. And so the sort of culture shock that they go through is hilarious because they're criminals, and so they dress nice in a tie and a suit, and that's not what the 80s was like at all. So they got to figure out what gay is and what cocaine is and what the music is and TV and all.
Oh, they were in prison. They knew what gay was. They were familiar with maybe prison gay in New York in the 80s. You know, disco hangover.
But the Chili Peppers were big enough to be in a Kirk Douglas movie, and what was that, 1986?
86, yeah, there you go. All right, but no, they weren't big. I'm telling you. I mean, they were respected and they were known, but they weren't big. Like in 1986, that was all Motley Crue and Warrant and Poison and stuff like that, and they were around. I mean, they were around. They were a band. They just never had that breakthrough hit
until Under the Bridge. That was the song that.
Yeah.
Was it, or was it Higher Ground? I seem to remember their cover of Higher Ground being the first where I went, okay.
Yeah, that came off the album before, Mother's Milk. And that was a good song, but what blew them up was Under the Bridge. Because, I mean, just listen to that and listen to what he's saying. And it's kind of like Everlong from Foo Fighters. When you listen to the words, it's like, who can't relate to that? You know?
James, who else you got on your list from your generation that we might be able to shoot down?
Well, it's not necessarily my generation that spawned this band, but it's my generation.
Yeah, your generation, but your perspective.
Okay. But Aerosmith, because Aerosmith had their they had like a renaissance during my generation, like during my high school and college years. They came out with Get a Grip, and then they had that Don't Want to Miss a Thing, and they had a nice little run in the 90s there. And I think Aerosmith absolutely has to be in everyone's top 10, if not top 5.
No, they're in my top 20, but not my top 10. There are just too many other. Dude, I got to make in my list. I got to make room for the Who, the Kinks, Zeppelin. I mean, there's a whole lot of bands.
Aerosmith is one of those few bands that did jump across the Nirvana gap,
but they're not as good. They're not as good as bands like the Kinks or bands like, they're just not. Come on.
Why not? Why not? Is the musicianship not up to par?
No, their songs just aren't as moving and as interesting. Their songs, Aerosmith Aerosmith is a pop band. Now, if you want to talk about Toys in the Attic and stuff like that, their first when they were all a bunch of junkies, that was some really cool stuff. Sweet Emotion and all that. But you're talking about Jamie's Got a Gun, Loving the Elevator, Dude Looks Like a Lady. Dude, those were just cash-in songs.
No offense, Rebecca.
Well, no, but those first 4 albums.
When they were junkies.
Those first 4 Aerosmith albums, when the heroin was going, man, they were fantastic.
They were magic. A bunch of talented junkies.
AC/DC has to be in people's top 10s, don't they? AC/DC is one of those bands that I don't want to like, but when I go through and I look at their hits and the number of hits and how good these songs are, and then if you actually play them, and then if I've never been to an AC/DC concert, but you could imagine being in an arena where that is pumping out of the giant speakers and everyone's getting into it. That man, like after the fact, my appreciation from AC/DC has grown, but
a case can be made.
Yeah, a case can be made. Probably top 10.
Let me throw one out that we haven't mentioned, but they definitely make one of my top 10s just because of what they did in the 80s and then how their longevity. U2 is one of the biggest rock bands of all time. They could still, if the U2 announced a tour today, they would play football stadiums.
I mean, they're definitely in the discussion of top 10 rock bands.
Yeah.
All right. Here's one of that I think is overrated. The Who.
No. Not overrated. Not overrated. Incredibly prolific. Pete Townshend's a genius. Roger Daltrey's one of the great frontmen of all time. I mean, that band is just, I don't think they're overrated. I don't know. They're not top 5, but they're top 10. The Who is in my top 10. The Kinks are better than the Who, and the Kinks are always sort of overlooked in that sort of quagmire of.
They're overlooked, but Ray Davies, one of the greatest lyricists, one of the greatest songwriters. I mean, that guy talked to a lot of people. He got shot in the city where I'm sitting right now, here in New Orleans. Ray Davies got shot in the French Quarter here.
He did?
Yeah.
Really?
Somebody stole his woman's pocketbook.
Yeah.
And then he started chasing him.
The
thief stopped, turned around, and shot Ray Davies in the stomach.
Yeah, I like the Kinks because they're one of the original. This is the list we should do. We should do our draft of brothers and bands who hate each other because Ray and Dave Davies are like the original. They're like the original brothers.
It's what Oasis copied, right? That was their inspiration.
Well, actually, yes, maybe, but also who gives credit to them is the Black Crowes, Rich and Chris Robinson. They're like, yeah, we're kind of like the modern Kinks. We hate each other. But the Davies brothers used to fist fight on stage in concerts regularly. They would just start throwing at each other, and then they'd go back to playing. There's something weird about brothers and bands. Yeah. Eddie and Alex Van Halen never did that. They held it together. Eddie and Alex seemed to get along just fine.
Whatever happened with the Oasis guys?
Well,
the Gallagher brothers.
Can I give you a little pro tip for your YouTube watching?
Well, one of you two knows the answer to that between the two of you.
Yeah, I do because I am a big fan of. Here's the problem. I don't know if I'm a big fan of Liam or Noel. I know that I'm a really big fan of one of them, and it's not the singer. It's the guitar player.
So it's Noel. He writes all the songs and he plays the guitar.
Is that Noel?
Yeah.
Okay. So Liam is the singer and Noel is the guitar player songwriter. Okay.
Yes.
So I love Noel and I follow him on Twitter and he is hysterical on Twitter. But also, James, just give yourself. You think you've got nothing to watch? Go to YouTube and just type in Noel Gallagher's greatest interviews. And you will laugh. This guy has no governor. This guy just says whatever he wants. And not only that, he is legitimately hysterical. He is legitimately really super funny. You will fall in love with Noel Gallagher just like in a second. I don't know that he still talks to his brother. As a matter of fact, that's the Google search or the YouTube search you should do. Noel Gallagher on Liam Gallagher and just get to the interviews where he's talking about his brother and just destroying his brother's music, his brother's talent. And yet I think they're still okay, like the way brothers are. I think they're okay, but he is brutal on his brother.
He needed his younger brother to help sell his songs because he knew his younger brother, his voice was higher and it worked. And I'll tell you one thing, those first 2 Oasis albums, I'd put them next to any rock band's first 2 albums.
What's the Story? Morning Glory is an amazing album from top.
And the one before that, the first one, those first 2 Oasis albums are incredible. And I would put them against any other rock band's first 2 albums.
Yeah. Do you remember, James? I don't know if you were old enough to remember this, but I'm sure Rebecca does. Do you remember the MTV Unplugged events? Remember what a big event the new MTV?
Hell yeah, that was
that?
the biggest. Yeah,
Yeah.
that started when I was in high school, and it was one of the things that made Nirvana legit. They're not just some guys playing power chords, screaming, angrily. Like these guys actually are
They invented
musicians.
the Unplugged. They invented Unplugged. Nirvana refused to play a normal set for MTV, whatever their MTV live appearance, and they said they want to do it unplugged. So they came out and sat on those stools and they played music, and then MTV went, "Okay, I know we didn't want them to do this, but now let's do an entire series where we."
Oh, is that how it worked out? They invented it
accidentally. They accidentally, yeah, because Kurt was just being a dick and he just wanted to.
Well, he was on heroin.
Yeah, he just wanted to be chill. So he came out.
Yeah.
Do you remember the MTV the Oasis one where Liam Gallagher, just before they walked on stage, refused to perform?
So
yes, he said there was something wrong with his voice, right?
So
and then they show him he's sitting in the skybox smoking and drinking, and there was something wrong with his voice. Yeah,
like toasting his brother.
And Noel stepped up and did and wrote, he sang all of his songs. He did the lead vocals on all the songs that he wrote, and it was essentially him saying, I don't need you. He goes, fine. If you're going to be a dick, get out of here. I don't need you, and I'll do it myself. And he did it himself. And I'm telling you, that is one of the best MTV live performance. It's great. I didn't miss the lead singer at all. Seeing the guy who wrote the songs, who plays lead guitar, sing them himself, that was incredibly fulfilling. I thought that was really great.
I'll tell you, that would be huge if they got back together now. That would be huge.
No, because they faded off. You don't know what their last 3 albums were. I mean, they were coming up with stuff. I just checked the discography. I don't know any of the songs off their 2002 album, the 2005 album, or their 2008 album.
Their last couple albums were nothing like the first few, but
right. And that first one was definitely Maybe. That was the one you were trying to think of earlier.
Yeah, and that's the one.
And then What's the Story of Morning Glory, and then Be Here Now. I remember that
they put that one out a little bit too fast. But then the next album after Be Here Now was better than Be Here Now.
Standing on the Shoulder of Giants.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I would take any rock band in the world, the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin 1 and 2. I'd put Oasis's first 2 albums next to any rock bands.
Here, let me pull this up for you. This is just an example of what I told you. You can fall into a Noel Gallagher hole. This is 2019. This is Noel Gallagher's best moments from 2019. And what you got to understand about Noel Gallagher is that he is like a media sensation in London. He's always on the radio shows. He's always going. Anytime they ask him to be a guest on a TV show, he goes on. He's kind of like, do you guys remember what a good get Howard Stern was? Like in 1995, like if Letterman could get Howard Stern on, everybody would tune in for it. That's kind of what Noel Gallagher is like now in England. When he comes on a show, everybody tunes in. This is an example of his best moments.
He's fucking wank at the moment. Who's this Capaldi fella?
Lewis Capaldi.
The fuck's that? Music is fucking wank at the moment. Who's this Capaldi fella?
Lewis Capaldi.
The fuck's that idiot?
He is. I'm going to stand up for him. He's funny as fuck.
It's because he's Scottish?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you fucking Scottish are... These fuckers, if they found out Hitler was fucking Scottish, they'd go, "Hello, wee man was just a wee bit misunderstood, so he was, eh?"
He likes a drink.
His name fucking Adolf, man.
I like Lewis, he's a good lad. You'd like him as well. What about Sam Fender?
I'm not eating any more than that.
Oh, there's him on Hot Wings.
I mean, people genuinely eat this shit out.
Some people are crazy. Some people are crazy.
Why are you taking a fucking woman on a date? Oh, wow. And eating that? Fucking hell. Oh, my God.
What impressions can you do?
Oh, fucking loads. I'm not doing any for you, though.
Come on.
No.
Do Ozzy Osbourne.
Alright, where the fucking Weather Channel, you fucking cunt, you. Hey.
Say Sharon.
Sharon!
David Bowie.
Not really good at David Bowie. What's in my hand? Nothing.
Paul McCartney.
I like Davies. I like.
Can you do Neil Young?
No.
You do his singing voice.
I wanna live. I wanna. That's pretty good, isn't it?
That's good.
Yeah. I could be Noel Young, the tribute act.
Neil Young.
Yeah.
But what's his name? Dylan.
But you bleed like a little girl.
It's very good.
I know.
You're very
I'm
good.
fucking wasted. I'm wasted.
Jagger. Give us Jagger.
All right. I just randomly picked up one. Trust me, there are some good ones. There are some good ones where he's being really funny, especially the ones where they ask him to comment on modern celebrities. He just, the best Ricky Gervais type takedown of people who are famous. He destroys pomp. He's just, and it's interesting because he's one of the most, at least 30 years ago, he was one of the most pompous rock stars in the world. And now he just goes after everybody. He's very funny.
Yeah, see, I remember interviews he was doing when I was in college where it was like, oh, yeah, we're going to be bigger than the Beatles. I was like, that's a ridiculous thing to say. It'll get your attention.
Do you know the famous story about how they were banned from Ireland? They were kicked out of the country and not allowed to come back. Do you know what happened? What they did?
No,
Okay,
I
so
haven't heard of this.
So their dad ran out on them when they were little kids, and the boys grew up hating their father. And a radio station, they were coming to play a show in Dublin, and a morning show found their father and basically told the guys in Oasis, they had him on the air, and they're like, "Hey, we've got great news for you. We found your dad. We'd love to get you guys together on the air, and we'll do it. We'll do it on remote from a hotel, and we'll have you meet your dad. I think it'll be a great moment." And the Gallagher brothers were like, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." And so they did this whole big thing in this lobby of this hotel, a live radio remote, and they brought out their father, and the Gallagher brothers beat the fuck out of their dad right there upon seeing him, kicking him, sent him to the hospital. They got arrested and they were kicked out of Ireland. they said, "Yeah,
for beating up their long lost dad."
Yeah, that sounds like a great radio bit. Bring dad. That'll be fun. And they beat the shit out of their dad.
I bet you Noel got a great song out of it too.
Probably. Don't look back in anger. I'm sure that's got something to do with it. All right. So are we done here, guys?
Well, one more thing before John Hinckley. This will be a quick one. I just love this story and I wanted to run it by you. This is a boobie update. I'm a big fan of boobs. I keep up with all the good boob news. Mm-hmm. And you'll be happy to learn that just a couple weeks ago, Nantucket had an initiative on the ballot. They put it up a vote for the people, and the people spoke, and they all agreed that the public beach in Nantucket is now allowed to be topless.
Now let's just hope the people that go there, the women that go there. I've been to Nantucket, so it should be cool.
I never have.
I knew a guy from Nantucket.
Cool island.
See, the thing is I've never been to a topless beach, but I think I'm one of the guys who, and I don't act like I'm all magnanimous or whatever, but I would be willing to put up with all the saggers for the few jewels out there. And I mean, I kind of want to go to one. Does that make me a perv, or does that make me?
You can get boobs anywhere in this world, dude. You don't need to go find yourself a nude beach and put up with all the saggers. Yeah, it's weird. It's a bit infantile.
Is it weird?
Yes.
Because I feel really immature saying it, and I understand that other people are going to think I'm an idiot. But I got to admit, I still want to go. And if it sucks, I won't go again. But I want to go, and I want to find out.
You want boobs? All you got to do is this thing called Google. Just put in topless.
I have a wife. I can just go walk up to her and just lift her shirt and do this.
That's what you get married for, so that you can honk them whatever you want.
Have you ever been to a topless? Have either one of y'all been to a topless beach?
No.
When I lived in Miami, I stuck my head onto one day, and it was pretty brutal.
Yeah, the kinds of people who go and frequent these kinds of places, they're not who you want. Trust me, a girl that you would really like to see at a topless beach, she knows she's a commodity. She's not just gonna go flaunting it around for free.
Some of them are hoes. Listen, and I would put up with 9 bad ones for the 10th good one.
There's not going to be a 10th good one is my thing. And if I'm telling you, by the time you get to the 10th, your scale, your little bar is going to be so low, they're going to be like, okay, I guess that's good enough. But it's not. It's going to be like what do they call them? A day shifter at a men's club. It'll be like nothing that is worth going on vacation for. All right. Rob Barr, who is, by the way, Rob Barr is one of our music experts on the show. He's a professional musician. He runs the Hire a Hero campaign. He does incredible work with veterans. But Rob was in a band that I managed back in the 90s. That's how Rob and I are such good friends. And Rob, I love you dearly, and you ruined the White Sox game for me. Sox win. I specifically am not wearing a White Sox hat today because I didn't want anybody just mentioning what was going on with the Sox Dodgers, because I'm recording it and I wanted to watch the game after this. And I love you, Rob.
Totally ruined.
Damn.
Oldest friends, Rob.
All right, and I have one more plug to make before you play John Hinckley over there.
Yeah,
and that is me and Rebecca are going to be making radio history this weekend, because on Sunday nights we are hosting a network show. We're filling in for Walter Sterling on Sunday. And I think, look, is this the first time that a nationally broadcasted radio show will be hosted by a trans? I think so. I think we're going to be making history.
Well, unless I can get this mic working, I don't know about that, but I'm looking forward to it, but I got to get this microphone working.
Head out of your ass. Get the microphone working. Go to Guitar Center and get one that plugs into the USB, and then you go to the settings, and then we have a sound check, and this has to sound good. You can't blow this, dude. You're gonna
make James drive to New Orleans, aren't you? James, you're gonna be driving all the way to New Orleans to plug something in for Rebecca.
I'm getting so mad. Look, my sheer hatred just knocked him offline, I think.
Did he jump? I didn't do it.
He might have accidentally dropped or something.
Yeah. All right, well, there you have it. I think that's a fantastic thing. Also, so when can we hear it here in Dallas? Because now I'm doing round 2 of recordings with Schwartz for his project on Sunday. But when is this going to air?
Oh, that's great. That's great. This is airing so in Central Time, the only time zone that matters. It is on from 9 p.m. till midnight.
Perfect. I'll be able to hear it because we're recording until 9. So we'll listen. That is great. Also, it should be noted, James, today I went to Spotify and I subscribed to your Florida Stories channel. Made sure that I did.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't tell enough of you. I was listening to some of them today. They are hysterical, folks. They are nice. They are little bite-sized things you can roll from one episode into the next. If because I saw like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need more of this. But on my Spotify, it just rolls into the next one. So it's like it's just a constant stream of James doing his Florida Stories. You can find them on Spotify. It is Florida Stories with James Parker. Go there and subscribe to it, follow it, help him out. Let's build up his numbers. They're incredibly good. I'm so proud of you when it comes to these. And I'm telling you, I think you got the go ahead. Kelly and I, you want to call it Florida? You want to rebrand? That's fine. You're on the big stage now. Yeah, I know you've been doing it for years, but now you're on the big stage. You want to rebrand? You can have our name. You can have our name.
Idiots?
You have earned it. Yes, Floridians with James Parker. You have earned it. All right. Anything else?
No, that's all my plugs, and making radio history, and got 100 episode podcast. I think that's enough.
Yeah, man. I was scrolling through them all, and I was like, here's what. Yeah, never mind. I don't. Oh, that's for Jeff Glenn. Hold on. This is another really good John Hinckley song.
If you're John Hinckley, how do you get laid? Like, do you think he's got a girlfriend or something?
Oh. Fame whores do not care about how the fame was acquired, James.
Okay, good for him. All right.
They just want the notoriety. So yes, there is some broken, fatherless woman out there who thinks that she can impress her little core group of friends by dating a notorious presidential assassin. So yes, I am certain that John Hinckley can get women if he wants.
Sweet. Good for him.
All right, there goes James. Everybody wave goodbye to James. Folks, we'll be back here tomorrow at noon. Rob, don't you worry about a thing, but just for future notice, typically I watch the White Sox games after I do this, so Try not to ruin them for me. Not that you would. I mean, look, I'm happy. And they won. And I'm still gonna watch it because I need to see. I need to see how Kopech did. I still don't know what Berger did at DH. Did Danny Mendick stay hot? There are still reasons for me to watch. So you didn't ruin it. You couldn't ruin anything. Rob's one of the best dudes I know. All right, folks, join me tomorrow at noon for High Noon. That's topics, current events, all that kind of stuff. John, thank you so much. John donated yesterday. Thank you so much, John. You always got our back. We are looking for donations. We didn't make it last month. We're behind the 8 ball a little bit, so anything you could spare, drop it in the tip jar. You can find us at Venmo. You can find us on Cash App, even PayPal. Sure, why not? Any port in a storm. This show does exist due to your kindnesses. So if you can, help us out, and then we'll shut down the begging for a few weeks. And then I'll get all panicked at the end of the month. But you know how it is. That's how we do it. Actually, there's a better than likely chance that I may not have to crank it back up at the end of the month. We might have something happening. More on that as details emerge. Okay, Kenny. There's Kenny, my guy. John, Rob, everybody who was here today, thank you so much. We had a good time, and I'll see you tomorrow at high noon. Be well. Bye, everybody. I can smile a little now. Things are going good. I always had to be on guard. That is understood. Down the road I'll travel, far from the comfort nest. I am on a never-ending quest. I am on a never-ending quest.